Hello and welcome to episode 365 of the 21st Century Work-Life podcast, where we talk about how the world of work and our attitudes to work are changing. I'm your host, Pilar Orti, and you can find out everything about me over at virtualnotdistant.com. And today, well, all my guests are special, but today's guest is even more special because we've known each other for a long time, but we haven't talked to each other for a very long time. And a lot has happened since then. And just to say for now that we are going to be looking at, we've never had someone come on from what I would call the health and fitness industry, although you might define it differently, Frederic. But yes, I already said your name, but maybe you would like to introduce yourself to listeners. Just say hello to them.
Thanks, Pilar. Hello, everyone. So I'm Frédéric Lloyd-Bougreau, and I'm a Pilates teacher in France.
That is also very important in France because I met you when you were in the UK.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear when that happened. So let's start with then the history of how you got to be a Pilates teacher, because I met you, when you were in the content development area, business education. I actually met you through doing some work in the museum and heritage industry. So what were you doing before you became a Pilates teacher?
Before becoming a Pilates teacher, I had many opportunities, many jobs. As you mentioned, Pilar, in the museum world, creating content for museums, and then later in business education, creating content as well. So content such as videos, podcasts as well, and working with freelance artists, lots of writers, voiceovers, filmmakers, etc. And so it's always been my field. And a long, long time ago, I was a voiceover myself. And that's how I joined the production side of the voiceover world all the way back then in London. But then what happens, as everyone, we all have activities and passions that carry us through our lives. And for me, it's always been dance and Pilates. So after work, I would always go to a dance class or a Pilates class. The dance class a little bit more. That was flamenco, tango. But Pilates when I had injuries. For example, pregnancy. I'm not saying it's an injury, but when I mean, the backaches come along, or aches around the pelvis, and so I used to go to a physio, and then he introduced me to Pilates back then, saying, actually, if you move, you'll feel better. You don't really need me in that sense. So I joined Pilates classes there. It was magic for me. And then I stopped for a while,
And around when in time was this? Was this in the...
That's about 20 years ago. Yeah, a good 20 years ago,
yes,
or even more now, I'm thinking. And so on and off, that's really on and off, dance and Pilates. And then I got a massive injury on my foot. That was back in 2015. I had to have surgery. And of course, I went back to Pilates because what was great, I could go to a class even on crutches.
Yeah.
Even with a foot injury, I couldn't go to the dance classes, but I could go to Pilates. So, and then it became like a religiously every week, and then twice a week, plus workshops. And I thought, okay, I'm getting addicted here. And the curiosity led me to train, in fact, back in 2016, to train in London at a school called Body Control Pilates, in contemporary Pilates. So I trained in all the mat work and the reformer and other equipment as well. And then my love of anatomy developed because we have anatomy exams. And I keep training since on anatomy all the time and biomechanics and stuff like that, but just for the movement. I'm not a pro in anything else than that.
Wow, I have so many things. One is, this is about your story, but I have to say that it's paralleling so much of my story that I have to share it.
Yes.
So I didn't know you were doing dance classes. I didn't know you'd be a dancer as well in that way. I used to also, I still do Zumba, which, is kind of dance.
Yeah.
But I used to go to Rambe, and it was actually in a Rambe class, and we will come to what Pilates is in a second for those people who don't know. But I would do in the evenings once a week in Rambe contemporary dance. And I broke my leg. And so I had to go back to beginners. And I remember the beginners teacher doing some exercises and saying, actually, this comes from Pilates. And that was the first time I heard it. And I went, oh, very specific movements. Oh, I think I like this. And then again, I went and tried Pilates, and I really enjoy it. I've done more and more. I also do other kinds of exercise. And I just signed up for a course to be a Pilates instructor, again, because I wanted to know how it all works. But now my mind is going into maybe I can do some of it in the future. But anyway, so I just wanted to share that with you on the parallels. I think it's fascinating. So what is Pilates?
So this is a massive question, and people have differing thoughts about it. So,
okay, great. That's interesting.
But one main thing that I always say to everyone, it's Joseph Pilates, who was actually German and the creator of the method back then called contrology. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at the 1920s when he went to America as well and developed it in New York with his wife Clara. So there's a whole history of it. And, you know, if you search it, you can find it. I'm not going to talk through the whole history. But what I like to say, it comes from a person. There's no Mr. Yoga such, but there's a Joseph Pilates. Yes. And that's really nice to understand that. So he spent his life analyzing the body, and his curiosity and knowledge, you know, he developed the method. What happened back then, he saw a lot of athletes, boxers, dancers, gymnasts, who had actually lots of injuries. And in the Pilates method, there are machines, equipments. One of them, which is actually really trendy at the moment, you know, there are trends going around, and that's the reformer. Now the whole method has lots of equipment for different purpose. But basically, there's an element about taking control of your body. So if you have an injury or something, you're just going to retrain your body to kind of find the imbalances, to kind of understand how your body connects to your mind, how it works, what you need to do to feel better, what you need to do to improve the control of your body, to understand what goes on within yourself. So that's where the mind comes. There's not a spiritual aspect to it. It's more like within myself, how I feel. Oh, what's my leg doing? Why my right leg is not pushing the bar as much as the left leg? How can I work on that? So obviously you have a professional teacher trained in the method, but also with yourself you discover your own body. And that's why I love Pilates. You're always questioning what's going on in your body, and it's to make improvements really. And so of course you can go to Pilates classes and it's great, but as a teacher, I always encourage people to actually, throughout the day, think about things. Like if you've got a neck ache, there are tools you learn in the class to actually try to relieve that ache and to move all the time. So we say something, the best movement is the next movement in the movement industry. And it's true, there's no perfect posture or anything, but it's constantly to try to adapt, work on yourself, understand what's going on. And, you know, in the morning, you get up, you'll feel different from the afternoon. So to try to understand what you need to do at a certain point of the day or time. The Pilates class is there to discover yourself, your body, and see how you can improve your well-being. That's how I see it. As I said, many people, many stories, many thoughts, but for me, it's about that.
I love the holistic aspect. I think that's really important. Also, how you get to understand yourself, how you get to use your body better, and also taking that responsibility for yourself, I think, when you are attending the classes. Lovely. So let's then take it from you started to train and what happened next, because now you're in France with your own studio.
Yeah.
So something must have happened in between. How did that evolve?
So how did that evolve? Right. So I started to train because I was curious and I wanted to know more. And then I got the addiction there. So I kept on training. I kept on doing exams. And then, so I adore London. I've lived there almost 30 years. London is my spiritual home, though I'm French. But I reached a time in my life, like coming to my late 40s, where I thought, I just need a change. And also with my partner back then, we both had a time in our life where we felt we need a change. We need to create new experiences. We need to just change our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. That did not mean a drastic, like leaving a country, but we're a bit impulsive like that. So, so I did not plan to become a Pilates teacher, although I trained as a Pilates teacher, but then I thought, why not? But you can't really, it's difficult to make money out of that in London. And I had a full-time job as well. Yeah, needed to change the way work-life balance, a big city like London, financials as well. It became quite difficult, the rents increase, everything increase, and your salary doesn't quite go the same way. And you think, I'm just living to pay my landlord. That's slavery. Enough. I want out of this. And basically my mum lives in France, and my son always spent time in the summer in France. She looked after him a lot because I was working a lot. And we always came to Brittany, where I am now. However, my husband is half Spanish, so we always went to Spain as well. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice to maybe, go to Spain, go to France? I don't know. A holiday is nice. However, it seems to be really peaceful here in Brittany. And one day, actually, my husband saw a house here where we are, a very affordable house. We could never have this in London or Oxford or wherever. So we thought, do you know what? Why don't we just go? And that was the impulsive part, okay? We got the house and decided to go. We'd not planned life in France at all. So we decided to go August 2019. And if you all remember COVID.
Yes.
So we went and we got locked down for 2 years in the house.
Wow, it's good you had the house then. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we had the house then, but there was no heating. So we spent 2 years with no heating. So it was a bit of a roller coaster because we didn't have much money either. We couldn't renovate. We couldn't do anything because it was COVID, shut down the world. Wow. But gradually we started to make rooms downstairs in the house, what's called a garage, but it's got windows. So there was an old flat there that was completely rotten. 30 years it'd been abandoned. So we went through the rot. And we kind of spent a couple of years renovating downstairs because we thought we need to work when we can. Again, my husband being a musician and me decided to become a full-time Pilates teacher. Yeah. Wow. And we renovated and it, and then in 2021, that was June, I was able to work in France to open my studio. However, what I didn't know is my profession does not really exist in France. And my diplomas were not valid or anything.
Okay.
So I had no right to work and being paid for it.
Wow.
So I had to retrain as a sports coach in France.
Okay. More anatomy.
Yeah, but not even because what we did at Pilates school was way above what was required for this diploma here. But so I did it with other Pilates teacher here because they also have to do this training to get a carte professionnelle. It's called like a professional card. So yeah, I had to retrain. So it, if you had told me, Pilar, well, if you go to France, none of your degrees or diplomas, nothing's going to be valid. You're going to have to retrain and you're going to be called for 2 years. I'd be like, What?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So life has surprises, but, you get on with it. You just get on with it, and you have to. Yeah, and that worked out fine, little by little.
By the time you left, I mean, Pilates was already, I think it's quite mainstream now. Like in my gym, we didn't used to have any classes 15 years ago, and now we have like 3 or 4 classes a day that we can go to. So it was very popular here, and it wasn't in France. So are you finding you're having to educate, as educate as in put the word out and advocate for it as a kind of fitness form? How are you navigating that, the fact that it's not as well known as you had expected?
Where I live in Brittany, it's not like Paris and Marseille and the big towns where, it's more spread there. Where I live, I had to, more than educate, I had to actually really tell people what I was doing, how I was doing it. So, for example, here you've got Pilates maybe in very large groups, and it's seen more as a form of gymnastic well-being, fitness kind of class, which is great. But I wanted to teach differently. I wanted to teach with small groups. Initially it was 4 people, now it's 6, privates and duos, and teach on the machines as well. And so I wanted more that personalized aspect to training, like, the person in front of me, how can I guide them towards their, feeling better in their bodies? How can I guide that person in front of me, which is going to be very different from a cyclist that just is really fit but's got specific needs, to somebody who's 75, with knee problems. And so I had to, when you talk about education, I had to really explain, this is the offering. This is what I'm doing here in my small home studio. Yes. It's not generic fitness classes. That's what I'm doing here. So it took me a good year, actually, to get my name around. And I've not done much publicity. It's bouche à oreille, we call in French. So it's like word of mouth. And so the word of mouth, so far, I fingers crossed, and I hope it stays like this, but it's been really good. So it's encouraged me to carry on. It's encouraged me to also develop further, because if I see someone in front of me and they're saying, I don't know, something simple like, I have osteoporosis, or I have a scoliosis, or, I have like pelvic floor problems, I'm going to think, okay, I'm missing information here on how to help you better. So then I will carry on training in specific things to be able to help further. So it always inspires me to get better myself as well, and to acquire more knowledge. But it's very directed towards the person. And that's my focus in my business. That's how I focus it. But it takes time, and it still takes time. It's not easy.
No, it's not. And you've got to really be very curious and enjoy also continuing to learn, not just your own profession, but also everything around it. Like always, this is the thing especially when we go freelance or set up our own business, because we enjoy doing something, there's always so much learning around the core of what we do.
Yeah.
So very interesting. I wanted to ask you, how's it been and you were talking about work-life balance and just doing something different and something new with how you were working. How's it been going from living in London and in effect having all these spaces to go to work like you would, and you were probably working in studios, you were working in offices, all these places, to now having, this is like really home-based work for you if your studio is in your home, if I understood correctly.
Yes.
How are you navigating that? What's different?
So what's different is, I save lots of time in transportation. So I go down the stairs. It takes me 20 seconds to go to work. And I love that. So it becomes my own little world, and I create my own little world. And that's great, actually, because in a way I'm quite private as a person. So it suits me fine. I'm not a big social type. So it suits me fine for the kind of person I am. However, the downside is I can find myself always working. I've got 2 dogs and a husband. and so it's easy to just work all the time because you're freelance, like respond to emails at 11, or I work morning, lunchtimes, evenings, so it's not very social. I work Saturdays. I will do my studying, late in the evening or the weekends. I prepare my lessons. I develop some programs. So your brain is always working, and sometimes you have to stop because it's just too much. And sometimes you have people coming in the studio and you're like, I just need a break. So I have to respect that, and I think for me it took a bit of time to learn to make time because you're actually at home. The boundary is different. You have to learn to make time and just take a real break. And that's actually difficult because you don't go home and that's it. You're just at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not just that, you're also having your clients coming into your home space. I mean, actually, that's interesting as well. You're having people from the outside coming into you. How was that?
Well, for me, it's really good here because we have a separate entrance with facilities as well. The separate entrance is really good. So the studio is downstairs. So they don't come through the living room. So we don't have to tidy up,
Yes, that's very important because that's an added stressor,
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. You don't have to make your home suitable for people.
Yeah, and that's really key for me because I think, otherwise it would be difficult and with animals running around, not ideal. So, so that's good.
Good. Well, I went on your website, pilatesbienêtre.com.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if you had videos of, you definitely had photographs. Do you do any teaching online? Have you created online materials?
Yes. So because of COVID, actually, that's how I started teaching online. I had a few clients from the UK that I still teach in English on a Wednesday morning online, which is really lovely.
Is this as a group or individuals?
Group. It's a small group. And so I still teach them. That's really nice. And otherwise, I teach in the studio. So I offer a hybrid, in fact, because it's a small studio. So if someone's coughing all the time, it's a small group. I set up so that they could join from their home, their own class. So let's say your class is at 6:00. You're not feeling very well, but you still want to do it. You don't want to cough all over people. You can join online from your home. And so what I found is like some people, instead of missing a class, they can join online. And it took about a year for them to get used to it's a possibility, but now they like it. And I do programs as well, like, so by programs, I mean, I will do a specific program, for example, Pilates for lower back or Pilates for pelvic floor health, which I run in the studio. But the last one that I ran, some people went on holidays, and so they joined online from their holidays, so they don't miss their program or class. And so it enables flexibility in delivering, the program, for example.
During lockdown, I also took online classes, so as in I attended. And then now I always try and go to I always go to the studio, and they do have, the Zoom is still open, the same as you, so some people can join online if they want. And I always wonder, it must be really hard to really see or sense what is going on online as opposed to in the room. How do you adjust your senses?
It's different because you don't have the 3D. You can't walk around the person and see, you have to ask them sometimes. You see something and you're like, hang on, what's going on there? Can you turn around and just do that? So I can actually direct them the way I might direct someone in the studio. For me, I don't spend time on the floor myself showing things, I treat them as they're one person I don't have lots of people online. I've got like maybe 5-6 people in the studio and one person that's joined online, max 2. So, it's that setup. I don't have 35 people, which then there's no point trying to direct. It's a different kind of class, which is fine too. It's just I think, okay, so I know that person's body. I don't know that person's body, but I know that person. I've seen them. And I know that they have a tendency to, I don't know, just put their body weight on the right or whatever. And what's going on there? Are they stuck because there's a table annoying them on the side and they can't lift their arms? So, I might ask little questions here and there like this. It's perfectly fine. And those that I teach just online, well, you do what you can. It's not the same as face-to-face, but it's still good enough. And you know what? If people can move, that's a good thing. And if they have their movement class, it's better than not moving at all. And if they have questions, they can ask, if they say, well, I'm doing that and actually I can feel a pinch in my lower back, well, I can direct them otherwise. So it works well.
It's funny because when we talk about knowledge work and working online together, we always talk about being very deliberate in our communication. And I'm hearing something similar for me. It's a parallel of, okay, they're not there with you. So you ask them more. You ask them for information so that you can assess. It's a different kind of dialogue in a way. I mean, very similar, but it's slightly different. So there is that adjustment. Nice. Very good. And have you done any recorded courses or you mainly teach live?
So I mainly teach live. I've got a YouTube channel now because we've got fast-speed internet now. So that's another thing.
Well, that's definitely...
In the countryside, we live, we didn't have fiber optic. It was like back in London in the 1980s or something. We went back in time a little bit on technology. But now it's fine. But the way I use it is so like every term for my group classes, for example, I pre-record a class. Mm-hmm. So those who miss a lot, they have the pre-recorded class. I use it for my own paying customers, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
More than my non-paying. So I set a private link on YouTube. Sometimes I do online classes in the summer. Mm-hmm. For example, I did one where every Friday we did an online class. And if you couldn't join, I send you the recording. So I use it like this. So I favor the paying customers. And like for my program, the pelvic floor program I've done a little recap on videos, for example. So once my people have finished their program, I send them their private playlist. So it saves them writing things down. So because I want people to experience them physically rather than be worried about remembering something when they come to a program that's specific to a program. So I'll just send them little recap videos and then they love that because then they can use that. And it's extra work for me. But then I think, well, how many hours is going to take me to do that? And I just put it in the price of the overall program now.
Yeah.
Someone who comes all the time and thinks they're like, oh, well, I can't remember what we did for that. It was really helpful. So I might just do a short video for them and just send it to them. It enables me to use it how it might be useful for them, but also how I want to use it as well.
Yeah, that's a really great use. And also, so these are your people who are coming into your studio. Do you also work within organizations?
Yes. So I've done quite a few things. There's lots of horse riding schools here where I live. So one of them contacted me and they said, look, we send our horses to the osteopath because our people are hurting the horse's back.
Right.
I'm not a horse rider. And I was like, okay, so body alignment, blah, blah. So I researched it. I did a specific course on horse riders, the impact of, the pelvis on the horse, the weight, seat bones, the feet. So I actually decided, you know what, I'm going to explore that. So I did a specific training on that to understand the impact of a person's body on the horse back.
Wow.
Just, the basic. And then I did Pilates once a week with them. So I went to the riding school. They had a room there. And I taught their horse riders. It's more about, breathing and how their posture affects, just for them to understand their own body and how posture, alignment, weight bearing, all of this affected not only their riding skills, but the horse. So if you slump on the left and you're trying to get your horse to go the other way and you're getting frustrated, but have you looked how you're sitting? You're slumping one side, so your horse is going to feel that way. Yeah. So that's like body awareness, to train them to control their arms, with weight, impact, and all of that, and breath as well, which is a key principle of Pilates, the breathing. Perhaps it was not Pilates, as strict Pilates. You don't do the Joseph Pilates 34 exercises.
Yes.
But it's body awareness and using Pilates in a specific way. And then recently I've done, so there's a milk factory here. I live in the countryside, so we produce, I don't, but in here, the community produce a lot of really nice cheeses and pancakes and everything. So there's lots of milk-based factory, and they have lots of people with backaches, people who work standing a lot or sitting a lot. So they asked me to come. And actually what they wanted was for their people, they didn't really ask for Pilates. They wanted people to become aware of their sitting posture, standing posture. And it was like, can you help them to feel better? So that's really hard, where someone says to you, can you come and help people to feel better in one workshop of 1 hour?
It's a nice challenge.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And so I did one workshop, and then they thought, can we have 10 of them, please? So nice. I went to their company. So I did a workshop there. So they had to create a desk, a room for their people. And so in one room I had, an older man with knee problems, a pregnant lady, a man a security guard, another person that does, line work, and very different people. So you're put in a room with all these people and trying to make them feel better. So it's more body awareness again, how to get on and off a chair safely, some nice moves for the back. You can do stretches, little things, nuggets of movement you can do here and there anytime to relieve tension and stuff like that. And they really liked it. Yeah, so that's what I do sometimes. Now I've got other people. I've got a group of dentists coming to the studio for their staff. They gift their staff a moment of well-being, and they're going to come together to the studio for a bit of Pilates, but it's really just to have fun together and to do something different. So there's that too, try to vary and just to listen to what people want and just to adapt as well as a teacher. See, okay, so they want that. How can I give them a good experience?
We're realizing how important moving is, and also awareness of movement as we move along in life.
Yes.
So I think that's important. So let's pick up that then. You were telling me before, when we were talking about your interest as well in movement as we're progressing through life, and maybe around when we start to get into our 50s or 60s, which are traditionally times in our life when we wouldn't associate with a lot of movement. I mean, I keep hearing this, we've always heard that as we grow older, we have to slow down a bit, take lots of care about ourselves. But now I'm hearing the opposite. I'm here, we've got to continue to move and exercise within our limits. How are you seeing the connection between how we look after ourselves, in particular to a movement, when we start to approach 50s, 60s?
Yeah, I mean, there's different phases of life. And then according to a different phase, what you need, you may want to move different. You may want to move better, feel better. So what you may do, you may hit the gym in your 20s and do lots of boot camp, and, that's what you want. You have that kind of energy, that kind of, and you don't have aches and pains, or that's what you may want to do. You may just be a runner and you just want to run, So you have to find what you love, because otherwise there's no point. You find what you love. Later in life, it's true, the body has different requirements. So for women, you've got perimenopause, menopause, and as you get older, for men as well, that the muscle mass is different. So there's different things you really need to be aware of. You need to be aware of nutrition. You need to look after your muscles and your skeleton and your body and your spine. And actually in your 40s and 50s, you need to move. And maybe in your 50s, you need to do weight trainings a little bit for the bones. So what I'm finding, you need to perhaps do even more because you need to build muscle strength. You need to build your balance. You need to work more at it to avoid falls as you get older. And you may have had back injury or something which is giving you restrictions, or, ankle sprains, number 2, number 3, number 4. So you need to look after that for longevity. And I think that's key. Like, there are different things you can do, but really to find what you love doing, whether it's swimming or cycling or dancing or whatever it is, or Pilates or yoga, there's no one modality is better than the other. If it's something you love, do it and don't skip it. And it should be a priority, one of the priorities in your life. I really advocate exercise, actually, whatever time of the day. And you don't need to do a whole hour class. Maybe you can do a bit 5 minutes here and there, a little bit every day, then builds it. And then you create a good habit. So it's all about habit forming. What good habits can you create? You brush your teeth every day. Well, can you do a few, just a few squats? Or can you pick up a bottle of water and do a few
bicep curls?
Like as you, pick up your child, whatever it is. And but with awareness, that's how I see it. But in your 50s, definitely you need to pick up on exercise. If you're not an exercise person, just look out for something and start. There's no time to start whenever you can, but we're not too old to start. The same in sickness. So I have another specialty is working with people who are undergoing breast cancer treatment or cancer generally. And so, it is proven, even the doctors, they do say actually to remain active will limit the side effects of the treatments, chemotherapy or other treatments. You need to stay active to heal better. So then you might need specific exercise if, let's take breast cancer, there's specific things you need to be aware of, and you need actually to build your arm muscles. It's really important. We think, soft, gentle exercise, but actually you need to build muscles as well, because of the effect of medicine can create muscle loss and fatigue. And so there's different ways to look at exercise as part of treatment as well, rather than having to do it. Actually, no, it's your treatment, like diet.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It is a way of staying healthy. It is a way of getting better. Sometimes it helps us to get better, to recover, all of that. And I think what you said about finding something you enjoy is really important. And also you won't continue unless you're enjoying it.
That's it.
So Frédéric, just to start wrapping up, you mentioned as well the exercise is so important for longevity. And I think this goes quite well with the fact that you shifted careers at some point, at a point later in life where before, I have to say this is one of the mindset changes that I see happening. Before we would expect that, well, whatever you were doing in your 30s, you probably would do for the rest of your life. And yet you completely shifted, retrained. I don't know, you just changed your whole work life. What do you think helped you to do that?
I think actually for me it was, so take London, a big city, which I love and I miss greatly. Yes. And I miss my old life in some ways. Okay. So there's not like chuck it all out and everything's like gold. No, it's not that. It's that balance again. So for me, it was more like I'm getting older and I was still young when I was thinking these things. I was still a young 40-something girl. And do I want to do that when I'm 50, 60? Do I want to spend 2 hours on the tube? Do I want to rush around? Do I want to pay the landlord? Do I want to... Yes. So it started like this. Do I want this lifestyle? Later, I was thinking of later. Do I want that? I don't know. So for me, it was that, a bit of a trigger. Do I want to keep doing this later? I'm not sure. Yeah, that's how it started. And... as I said, it was a bit of an impulse, because we're that type of people. My husband and I were a bit like, hey, let's do this. Why not? Yeah. I would advise to think a little bit of the plans a little bit more You can't think pandemic, obviously, but to maybe prepare a bit more, I think. Though I'm in France and I'm French, for me what was really hard was the culture shift. I was used to a London very multicultural culture, the vibrant, everything, people, working hard and things. And where I am, it's way more laid back. It took me 2 years to get used to everything's closed at lunchtime for 2 hours and just don't even think about calling anybody in August or in December.
Yeah.
And so that was hard because, you're in that treadmill. And so my brain was not adjusting. My brain was still like this on the treadmill, and I was getting frustrated here. Like things were not going the way that I wanted to go, and there were blockages all the time. I cried over this a lot. I kind of, thought, I'm packing up, I'm going back to London, I don't care. So these are the real moments where it's not all rosy,
Yes.
So the mindset, I was happy to experience something new, but I didn't expect that actually my brain needed time to adjust as well. That was hard. And I'm French, okay? My husband's not. He had to learn French.
Wow.
I'm French, but I spent 30 years in the UK, and the way people think here, and I'm French, I'm saying the way French people think here where I am is different. Because I was educated in England as well. So there's the whole thing, which is like, whoa, I don't feel French. Where am I? And people still think I'm English here. It's like weird.
What I'm hearing is that one, it's a transition that takes time. And I think sometimes we underestimate how much a change in location or even a change in lifestyle, however attractive it is at that point, it still takes a lot of time. And even if we've made the choice, actually, it still takes a lot of time. And I'm just thinking of, even myself, I also love London, but sometimes I dream of spending more time in Denia, where we have a flat where it's just in the middle of nowhere. My husband's always like, well, I'm not sure I want to be there 12 months a year because I need people. But, in my introverted mind, I'm like, oh, the silence all day, not having to talk to anyone. That would be wonderful. But the reality is that it would take me a long time also to adjust. And it's always compromise. But now that there are more, that some of us have more opportunities to work from anywhere, to change things, that we can find out more about the places we'd like to go to because we can do so much research before we even get there. That understanding that it's going to take a long time and that it can affect us in ways we hadn't thought of until you're there.
I think what's really important, especially moving countries, is do a bit of that research. Is my job recognized there? Yes, no. Okay, what do I do for my job to be recognized there? Okay, seek advice there. How much is it going to cost? Yes. What's the tax situation? What status? It's very different from the UK in that area. And I'm still struggling with it. Yeah, it's not easy, that side. But, there's lots of good things. So it's all that balancing.
Always.
Yeah, lots of balancing, but that's okay. I've got dogs here. I'm happy. I couldn't have had dogs in London.
Yes. I always say you can't have everything. Once you know that, that's fine. You can't have everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, great. Good. Well, Frederic, this has been so lovely. It's been nice to catch up. I almost feel like, this could have been a coffee in London, but it's been a recording across online. So this is absolutely wonderful. If people, if anyone's in Brittany and they want to attend your classes, that would be great. But if people want to get in touch with you to ask you something or just to say hello, where's the best place to reach you?
I've got WhatsApp or email.
Excellent. Well, we'll put the links in the show notes. Are you on LinkedIn much? I seem to hang out only on LinkedIn. What?
I've got a LinkedIn account and I'm not using it much for my business, and that's why. So I try to focus on the other media. But I get messages and actually you make me think I should be on LinkedIn a little bit more.
Everyone is there. And if we're talking about this kind of thing, I think definitely it would be a great space. Yeah. Well, anything else you want to say to our listeners, Frederic, before we sign off?
Keep well, move well, keep moving, and look after yourselves.
A big thank you for listening to the 21st Century Work Life podcast. We know there are many other shows for you to choose from. Remember to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, and you can check out the full show notes over at virtualnotdistant.com/podcasts. Talking of podcasts, we have another show you can listen to, Management Cafe, which you should also be able to find on all podcast apps. I have been Pilar Ortiz. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy.